right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at, that's my pen, at 7:03 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag,
United States
of America,
to the republic for which it
stands
one
nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
and justice.
Do we have Nico online or is he, okay, just make sure that was it.
Evening, council.
Hello, Nico.
Hi.
All right, can I have a motion to approve tonight's amended agenda?
I move to approve the amended agenda to add items 3C and D as presented by staff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Amended agenda is approved. Moving on to number 2, presentations, proclamations, and visitors. We have a few presentations this evening. Our first one, we're going to welcome Diana Dickey. Did I say that right? Okay. The Substance Abuse Prevention Coordinator with Marion County. Thank you, Diana, wherever she's. Go ahead and come to the podium.
Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Foley. I'm here with my colleagues, Diana Dickey and Phoebe Barker. We work with Marion County Health and Human Services on the Health Promotion and Prevention team. And we're here tonight to share some updates about recent trends and youth data around youth substance use. I'm going to start by sharing the results of a survey that we sent out about youth substance use last fall to all the city councilors throughout Marion County. And then I'll share about my work in tobacco prevention, and I'll hand it off to Diana to share about her work in alcohol and other drug prevention. We would love to answer any questions you have at the end of our presentation as time allows. And you have a handout in front of you that has some of the data that we'll talk about in the presentation as well. So last fall, we sent out a short survey to all the city council members across Marion County. The aim of the survey was for us to get a better understanding of city councilors' views and understandings around youth substance use. From the responses we received, we noticed a few trends. First, with regard to opioids, 80% of people who responded to the survey rated opioids as a very great concern. It wasn't a surprising finding for us given recent trends and news stories around opioids, in particular fentanyl. We also noticed there was more concern about access to and use of nicotine products compared to access to and use of cannabis products. And there was more knowledge about the risks and harms of vaping or smoking cannabis related to or compared to youth use of opioids. So more knowledge about cannabis use than there was about opioid use. We also asked council member respondents about popular additional community efforts they thought might help improve some of the recent trends around youth substance use. The most popular option was more education. Policy efforts were also a popular option, and then increased access to treatment resources. We asked what were some of the obstacles and strengths within communities surrounding youth substance use. The popular or most commonly cited obstacles were money, social media, peer pressure, as well as lax enforcement of existing age restrictions on vendors. Some of the strengths that were mentioned were education in schools, youth serving organizations in the community, parental guidance, and a shared desire to tackle the issue. When we talk about substance use, cigarettes or tobacco use, which is my area of focus, may not be the first thing that comes to mind. However, tobacco continues to be the leading cause of preventable death at both the county, state, and national level. This might not be evident from just looking at the current rate of adult cigarette use in Marion County, which is 14%, but that 14% translates to 36,900 adults who regularly smoke cigarettes, 17,730 people in the year of 2022 who had a serious illness caused by tobacco, and 528 people who died from tobacco-related illness. Decades of disease prevention, health promotion work, which we tried to accomplish, have helped lower our rates of tobacco use, but there's still work to be done. Marion County's rate, as you can see, is 14%, which is higher than both the state average of 12.6, as well as our 2025 Community Health Improvement Plan goal of 13%. So clearly there is more work to be done. The problem of addressing tobacco use becomes even more challenging when we consider youth tobacco use and the rise of vaping. Inhalant delivery systems, commonly known as vapes, have been manufactured to contain increasingly higher concentrations of nicotine. And in this case, they're using synthetic nicotine rather than nicotine derived from the tobacco plant, which has made them even more addictive than cigarettes. Vaping may be new, but the aggressive marketing strategies used by big tobacco are just the same. Vaping companies use flavored products and product placement to appeal to youth, and the strategy is working. In the 2022 student health survey, 64% of 8th graders and 63.4% of 11th graders who used tobacco in the last 30 days reported using flavored products. On the right is an image of some popular food products on the right, like Treetop apple juice, and a vaping product made to look like the same product on the left, and in the bottom option, candy. These are not isolated examples either. There are many, many more images to share. The legal age to purchase tobacco products in Oregon has been 21 since 2017. However, youth are still accessing these products at high rates. In the 2022 student health survey showed that more than a quarter of students who vape report they got their tobacco or vaping products from sources under 21, either directly from stores or gas stations themselves, or from friends and family members under 21. Marketing for tobacco products has been dramatically decreased and restricted in the past 60 years, starting with legislation in the 60s and 70s, which banned tobacco advertising on radio and television. One of the few environments still available to big tobacco is the point of sale at tobacco retailers. The map on the right shows the city of Aumsville with schools and a 1,000-foot buffer around them. And then in the bottom along Mill Creek Road there, you can see the 4 tobacco retailers in Aumsville. The colors indicate their status based on the minimum legal sales age inspections that were conducted in 2023. All of the tobacco retailers in Aumsville passed their minimum legal sales age inspections, which means they didn't sell products to minors during those inspections, which is not the case for many of the other tobacco retailers in the county. Marion County currently has 276 licensed tobacco retailers. And in 2023, 43 retailers sold tobacco products to persons under the age of 21 during these inspections. This is just an enlarged view of that map. As public health professionals, our goal is to address problems, the problem at the roots. We have some strategies like health education that focus on the individual impacts. The aim of health education is to increase individuals' knowledge about the perception, or increase individuals' knowledge and the perception of harm from using tobacco products. We can accomplish this by partnering with schools and community groups to provide evidence-based curricula and other educational resources. We also have strategies that seek to impact the environment where healthy choices are made. Public health policies have had the biggest impact on decreasing tobacco use and improving community health over the past 60 years. We offer support for policy work by providing resources and technical assistance for identifying and developing effective policies. A few of the effective policies that other areas, cities, and counties around the state and region have worked to advance include smoke-free environment policies like smoke-free parks, smoke-free outdoor dining, smoke-free downtowns, expanding the Indoor Clean Air Act, which is the law that says you can't smoke or vape within a building or within 10 feet of any entrance or exit. And then one option that's not included on here is smoke-free events, so big community events, making those smoke and vape free as well. Oops.
here.
I'll just, before I pass it off to Diane, I'll just say that this is, our presentation is just a quick sneak peek, and we could speak for much longer about these topics. So we'd love to follow up with any questions that you have, or a working meeting to discuss this further with you, but I'll pass it off to Diana.
All right, thanks so much for having us here tonight. We're happy to be here and share this information. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what alcohol and drug landscape looks like in Marion County. So this map here, or these two maps here, actually, these are for all ages. So this is patient visits in Marion County by zip code. So this is the zip code where people live, no matter which hospital they visited in the state of Oregon. And you can see on the left, the alcohol, you can see the darker color means higher concentration, more people going to the hospital for alcohol-related issues. And it kind of is concentrated in central Salem and kind of goes up north in the North Marion County. And then opioid overdose, that's the orange map on the right. You can see how it's also concentrated in central Salem, but it kind of goes a little bit south. So that gets down into this community a little bit and some of our other communities to the south. We do have higher numbers of people going to the hospital for alcohol use, but we also know that opioid overdose has potential for much worse outcomes. So we're very concerned about that. All right, so what's going on with the kids? So about 30% of our 11th graders have told us that they have tried marijuana at least once. 13% of them through the student health survey have told us that they have used marijuana in the last 30 days when asked. So that's concerning. Those numbers are going up. In particular, ever since cannabis became legal, we've seen a rise in cannabis use among youth and adults as well. But we're looking at youth in particular here. We still have, 10% of our 11th graders have said that they have used alcohol in the past 30 days. So, which is quite a high number, and they tell us it's easy to get. The last time in 2020 from our student health survey, when we asked students where they got the alcohol they consumed, a majority of them told us they got it from their parents with permission. So we know that there's some work to do around parent education. The other thing that we look at are ask students about, are they using prescription medications that don't belong to them, or something that was prescribed to them that they're using differently than the doctor told them how to use it. And one of the concerning things that we are seeing is the student health survey is 6th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. And 6th graders are telling us at the same rate as 8th and 11th graders that those that are using prescription medications that aren't theirs. Same rate between 6th, 8th, and 11th, which is a little unusual. So we're starting to see substance use issues at younger ages, which is concerning. All right, and we know that fentanyl overdose deaths are growing very quickly among youth. So our team did some youth listening sessions earlier this year. They did some in Salem and they did some in rural areas. So we tried to get a good cross section. I won't read all of these, but some of the themes that we heard from them are how common vaping is. So this is just, we're having a conversation with teens, how common they are. We heard high school students express concern because they're seeing middle school and younger students vaping, and they're like, we didn't do that when we were that age. So that was something like, well, we better listen to that, when we hear high school students talking about that, also talking about how easy it is to get alcohol and getting it from their family members. So again, we know there's some parent education that needs to be done. I'm just going to briefly go over some stuff, some information around fentanyl. So we have seen a dramatic increase in fentanyl overdoses. This chart here shows in 2019, we really had no fentanyl overdoses. That orange line is Marion County and the blue line is the state of Oregon. So we're not quite as high as the state of Oregon, but you can see that in 2019, 0, and then how quickly that's gone up just in the past few years. And we've had several large seizures of fentanyl in our county over the last few years. And just really briefly, just a couple things about fentanyl. So it's like 100 times stronger than morphine. So that means if somebody gets a hold of it, it doesn't take very much to cause a lethal overdose. You can barely see those little grains on the tip of that pencil, and that's how much it takes to cause a lethal overdose of fentanyl. And you've probably heard it's being put into pills, sold on the street or online as Oxycontin or something. Youth in particular think that they're getting, they'll seek out an opioid like Oxycontin or Vicodin. Sometimes they'll seek out something like Adderall because they think it'll help them study. We particularly see that with like older high school students or college students. And really it's just a pill that's made with fentanyl because it's really, really cheap to make. So the people who are making these illegally, they don't really care, they'll cut it with fentanyl, or it'll be all fentanyl, and they'll try to pass it off as something else. Another issue, you can see here on the left, how much heroin would cause a lethal overdose and how much fentanyl. So it's such a teeny tiny amount. We are doing some stuff around fentanyl prevention. There's an increase in the availability of Narcan, which is a medication that can reverse an opioid overdose. Lots of community awareness and education whenever we can. And then there was a Senate bill that will take effect at the beginning of 2024 school year that requires opioid education to students. All right, so some of the strategies that we use for the alcohol, tobacco, and drug prevention, Connor touched on these a bit. We're sharing information, we're doing prevention education. We try to create positive alternatives for students because that helps build skills for them. We know that creating those positive alternatives can what we call a protective factor, meaning it can help protect them from the risk of using substances. So that's something that we work on, and we work with communities and organizations on that, coalitions, and then laws and policies, as Connor talked about. So our program, our health promotion and prevention program, some of the things that we can provide to communities, we can provide technical assistance for prevention initiatives. So community says, hey, we want to come together and, we want to create an event, or we want to hold parenting classes or something like that. We have technical assistance available, doing presentations just like we're doing here, policies, sharing data again, like we're doing here. We have a substance use coalition, but we also know communities may have other things that they are seeing or interested in working on, and we're happy to talk with you if there's any particular way that we're able to assist in any of these areas. And then finally, I just want to end with the vision for Marion County Public Health is a thriving community where we can all live healthy and purposeful lives. So that's our hope for everyone in the county. I won't touch. Okay.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on that, guys? Moving on, what do we have next? Aumsville Historical Society, Ted Shepard.
Hello. Back again. Well, I think some of you might have the report, but if not, I'll proceed with this one. Our officers and volunteers continue to maintain our business needs for the museum and AHS. We held elections in November for our 2024 officers and one board position. Our normal museum season opened the first Saturday in April, operating our normal times and day until the end of October. In June, we enjoyed a field trip visit from the Aumsville elementary 5th grade classes with about 92 visitors, some staff, and a couple extra parents. We managed to be open 116 hours, and we welcomed 340 visitors this past year, and our volunteers donated 367 hours, and our 2023 membership was 61. course, the high visitor count is from the fifth graders coming in, which helps a lot. And we're actually going to be entertaining some third graders coming in. I think you folks have got stuff lined up for all 4 buildings. City Hall, maybe.
We'll see.
Fire Hall and Post Office and our museum. I think they're doing more of a city building thing, but anyhow, I haven't had contact with them, but they did contact another member. Our 2023 expenses were $3,980 and our income was $3,396 with our ending bank balance of $23,431. Our expenses were a little bit more than our income. We usually can manage less expenses, but we did invest $800 in some window film for the doors and the windows that weren't filmed by the city many years ago. And we did invest a couple of years ago on some UV blinds for the front 3 windows. But we decided that when they're open, we wanted to have that extra protection. So we invested in some film for the front door and the bottoms of the windows that weren't covered. And we recently just purchased a cordless microphone and speaker system that's going to help us out. We use some of our Corn Festival funds to go along with that. And other than that, that's about what I've got. We had a potluck this Saturday, and we also took in a small collection and some canned goods for the food bank that I turned in today. So, and we did have a couple of nice family visits from they came in twice this last year, the Porter family, 2 different times, generating about 8 or 10 people. And they also went up to the new restaurant. It wasn't Newfeld's anymore, and had lunch there. So we always encourage people when they ask us to point out the restaurants that are in town, and hopefully they go there and spend a little bit more money. So that's all I have. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
And now we have a few city employees to recognize, and we'll let the department heads speak. Oh, I guess the first one's Aumsville Police Department.
Okay. Good evening, council, and thank you for the time to present these awards. Last couple of years, this has been a little bit more difficult because our department's actually doing very well. And it's getting harder and harder to recognize the achievements, who's getting the award this year. I'll start with, do you have the reserve or the full-time officer?
Full-time. Full-time?
Okay. So our Officer of the Year award for our full-time staff is going to go to Philip Wright. So I will just say above and beyond what he's done is he has implemented our FTO program. We have a legitimate FTO program now, and he's really taken the lead on that and showing the attention to the detail. He's also recognized by the Oregon Police Officer Association and November 17th for saving the life of a citizen here in Aumsville. He got the life-saving award there, and thought there was one more thing I was going to say, but I want to recognize him for Officer of the Year. And for the Reserve Officer of the Year, we have Dave Hagan. He has brought in some of his off-duty skills to the police department. He's a defensive tactics instructor, and he's gotten us associated with some official programs that he's brought that in. And he's also taken time out of his day to spend a full week for a firearms instructors course to help our department. It's kind of rare for a department to use their reserves to instruct something like this, but in our situation, we do have a good asset for that. And he's been willing to take the time to go to that class, which was a week long, save the department a lot of money by sending him. So, Officer of the Year. Thank you. Thanks again.
City staff.
City staff.
All right, so this is my, I guess, my award to present tonight. So this is our Employee of the Year. This is a citywide overall award, and this year our recipient is Matt Etzel. Now, I'll just echo the words that the chief said about his department. I think citywide, our staff are just doing a fabulous job, and I think any one of them would be deserving of recognition like this. But how we select an Employee of the Year is the department heads get together and nominate someone and talk about some of their attributes, and then typically all three of us end up, or at least two of the three end up deciding the Employee of the Year. And so Matt was nominated, and the rest of us said, perfect. So he's very deserving. Matt's really stepped up his workload this year, taking on a lot of additional responsibilities. He's managing a lot of our projects like the new public workshop, the reservoir project, the well drilling project, and he's really taking a personal hands-on approach to that to make sure that those projects are moving as they should be, as well as helping to interface from that project management standpoint to administering the grants and dealing with all of the requirements to the grants. So we have to have that conduit back and forth between contractors, engineers, admin, and the granting agencies. And Matt's just been doing a perfect job. So with that, we'd like to present him this award.
Yes.
Employee anniversaries.
Yep. So now we've got a few employee anniversaries to recognize, and I'll call Matt back up here. So Matt is being recognized for 10 years of service with the city. And, you know, we have had a few retirements in the last few years, but we still do have a lot of longevity in the city, and it makes us stronger, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But 10 years with the city. I'll look at the right cameras. I was just talking about longevity. Our next recipient is Josh Hoyer, our finance director, and he has 10 years longevity with the city. As you can see, Josh and I follow direction really well. And one of our staff that isn't here that's having their 5-year anniversary is Matt Winans. And he's just been an excellent addition to our public works staff. And I tell you, we just got a great team out there in public works, but we'll make sure he gets his 5-year recognition.
Thank you, everybody, for your dedication and hard work. It really is appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Are there any members of the audience or in Zoom that would like to provide public comment on any of our agenda items? Except hearings, yes, except hearings. There's none? Right, moving on to number 3. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The consent agenda is approved. Okay, moving on to number 4. The council will now open a public hearing on agenda item 4A. Time is it? At 7:33, resolution 01-24, adopting a supplemental budget for the fiscal year 2023-24 and making supplemental appropriations for the street fund and public works equipment.
Thank you, Council. Ron Harding, I'll be giving the staff reports, Ron Harding, City Administrator. And so what this is before you is, as you know, we approved a couple of projects. One was the Public Works shop building. When we budgeted for that last year, it was before the bids were received. And ultimately, the project ended up coming in higher than we had budget available. And so council approved us to get a fill-in loan for the rest of that project. And as we start to expend that money, we need to do a little administrative housekeeping, and that is to make sure that we amend the budget now to coincide with both the amount we plan to spend and the amount of money we plan to receive. Because that's more than 10% of that fund, these funds that we're talking about tonight are fairly small funds. So anytime you have an increase, it goes beyond 10%. And because of that, we have to do a budget hearing. The street fund, which is Fund 14 well, wait a second, the street fund is 14 is the same. We actually received a $250,000 grant from the small city allotment. And since we were doing this budget hearing, we figured rather than come back and do another budget hearing later, we'd go ahead and amend that fund as well. And so our engineer's estimate on those improvements will be about $400,000. So we wanted to go ahead and receipt that fund in and then increase the appropriations to be able to expend for those improvements. Now they haven't went out to bid yet. As a matter of fact, I think there's a contract, I think was in your consent agenda to receive the money as well. And once that goes out to bid, that'll have to come back to you for award and contract approval. But since we're here, we just go ahead and amend the budget. So you have 2 budget amendment before you tonight. Fund 14, which is our street fund, and Fund 16, which is our Public Works Capital Fund. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any?
I move to approve resolution.
So we do have to close the
Yes,
public,
that's
we
right.
have to accept public testimony, then close the public hearing, and then council can move.
Are there any members of the audience or in Zoom that would like to submit comments on this item? Okay, there is none. Does staff have any additional comments? No, okay. I will now close the public hearing at 7:36 PM and move on to council deliberations. Are there any? Now may I have a resolution?
I move to approve resolution 01-24 to modify budget appropriations as presented by staff.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to number 5. Old business, there is no old business. Number 6. New business, there is no new business. Agenda item number 7, City Administrator Report. We invite Ron Harding back.
All right, here I am back. One of the things we put in the administrator report was the audit report for you. We printed those out this year. The auditors usually print those out, but they're doing more electronic this year, so we did that for you. And so if you have any questions about the audit report looks good as usual. Financially, we're doing really well, and you'll see that in the State of the City presentation as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions or comments on the audit report. The police report is in your packet. And we like to report to council on the number of calls for service that we've had. One of the things you're going to hear about in the presentation is that you'll see that we've steadily increased the numbers of calls for service. We've done that with the same amount of staffing, and that's really just changing our approach. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then our Public Works report is also in your packet. Happy to answer any questions. I don't think there's anything unusual there. As you've noticed, we've had a few more repairs or upgrades lately than normal, but that we prepared for that. We budgeted for those things. And that's just part of managing a sustainable system. And so if you have any questions, happy to answer that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start our State of the City presentation.
I don't have any questions. Does anyone else?
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to try to go through this a little quicker because I know these presentations, because there's a lot to them, can really drag on. But I still don't want to forget a lot of this very important information. But one of the reasons why I try to do a yearly State of the City presentation to council is one, so that you can get a sense of the accomplishments that we're doing. We kind of culminate all the things that have occurred over time, but also we want to inform the community on a lot of the good work that council's been doing. And oftentimes in government, we'll talk about something 3 years ago that today is just now, we're just now realizing or completing. Because once we set a direction, a policy direction, it takes time to filter and implement that. And I think what you'll hear tonight through our presentation is, I did something wrong. There we go. I think what you'll see is that we really do hear council's concerns and we implement those policies and operations. It just doesn't happen instantly all the time. So we also like to relate these back to the goals that council set. And so this was goal one. This is maintaining municipal facilities and infrastructure. And just a few things we've been working on: our water system maintenance and improvements. We talked about that just a second ago, where we've had a lot of upgrades to our system. We've done those through sustainable budgeting, so we're prepared for those. I think we had a chlorine generator at the potable well that we are in the middle of replacing. Council just awarded that. It wasn't that long ago that we would have been struggling to replace that. We would have been trying to find a loan or something like that, but we planned for those types of things. We've drilled new wells at Porter Boone. Our water storage tank, the 1 million gallon reservoir that we're putting in. These are monumental projects. I mean, there hasn't been a project like that done for many years in the city. East Side Park Urban Growth Boundary Expansion, our first hearing with the county is on the 21st of this month. And so that project is moving along as planned. And then updated our park master plan, secured grants this year for 3rd Street improvements. And plus, through our budgeting, we've budgeted to have street improvements. One of the things that council understands is our internal street grid is in really bad shape, and we really need to start making a concerted effort, because if you drive around and look at our streets, a lot of them are alligatoring and water penetrates through those cracks, and then it just compounds and gets worse and worse. And then our new public workshop, which is currently under construction. So this is our this is what our grant funding looks like as we sit today for our wastewater project. Was, as you know, this is something we've really concentrated on the last few years. The $927,000 was a direct APAR appropriation. when the American Rescue Plan was announced, they did a per capita direct appropriation to cities. And we said we're directing that right to this sewer project because it was our number one concern. We did receive $1 million Marion County grant. We have been spending that grant down. As a matter of fact, I think in the next few months, we'll have exhausted that grant through the design work. At $1.25 million, that was a direct appropriation through our congressional federal delegation. $5 million was appropriated last year in Senate Bill 5506. A number of you lobbied the legislature. We had our community come together and sign petitions. And we put in an appropriation request for that. The city had been saving money through system development charges and our capital fund, where we'd been stocking a little bit of money in, and we've got some match there. And then really we worked a long time on a USDA loan, which is a $9 million loan, but $6 million loan forgiveness. So that's a $15 million package, of which $6 million is loan forgiveness. That's a big chunk of money, and we really had to strategically plan over the years to capture that maximum amount of return. And we were able to do it. The staff worked, in concert with our partners to make sure that we could realize as much benefit as possible. And then there's a $2 million tentative loan from DEQ with a $2 million tentative loan forgiveness. The reason why we say tentative is we haven't actually pulled the trigger, but that is their program. It's a 50% match up to $2 million. And we've memorialized that in concert with DEQ and USDA and the USDA loan applications. One of the things that we also have done with this particular project is we did put in another $4 million legislative ask in the short session. If we're able to get that $4 million, we would just replace the $4 million DEQ loan process. So basically, instead of an $11 million loan overall on an almost $30 million project, it would just be $9 million. So we're looking for every avenue to buy that down. And you think out of $30 million, $2 million isn't a lot of money, but it could be $10, $15 on a utility bill. So we're trying to get that down as much as possible. I just want to talk about grants for a minute and how well the city's done with grants. And I've listed them, or staff has helped me list all of the grants out here. But you kind of just look at our historical grant effort, and it's not that we didn't put out an effort to get grants, but historically we don't get a lot of grants as a small city. We're less competitive than larger cities. They have more staff time. They have more resources to dedicate to going after these grants. Many times these grants are very competitive. But we've really done, and even though we've worked on some of these grants through 2021, 22 is when we really started to ramp up our success rate and actually get contracts and awards and things like that. And so you can see typically a good year for us might be $100,000 grant or $150,000 grant. Those are big years for us, but in 2022, we actually were awarded $7.7 million in grants, and then another $13 million in 2023. So those are big numbers for a city our size. When you think that our entire city budget might be, $3 million if we don't have a big capital project to go with it. So that's pretty remarkable. And those are numbers that you can talk to the community about, talking about our success rate and how we're really trying to, be able to impact, lower the negative impact on our community as much as possible. Just talk a little bit about budget recovery. If we go back to the 2015-16 era, a lot of our operating funds, and we're just looking at operating funds here, we're in a negative balance or budgeted to head towards a negative balance, meaning we were spending more money than we were bringing in. And some of that had to do with just how we we're managing the fund. Some of that had to do with just some of our policies that were somewhat outdated. And we actually started to turn that around in 2017. And if you look at that, red line, that red line is a policy that we set for a 90-day reserve. Now, again, back in 2016, we weren't meeting that reserve. We were actually going in the negative. So, but we said, we're gonna make a policy that says that we will not spend below this 90-day reserve. And if you see that blue line, that's actually what our funds look like today. So we've got sustainable budgets. We can purchase the things that the city needs. We're not, there's not millions of dollars laying around, but if we had a $10,000 expense, we could purchase that. So it's not like we're really struggling. All right, council's goal 2, supporting and encouraging community involvement. I really think this is something that we've focused on the last several years. Some of these events are new. Some of these are older events that we just reorganized, but our Tree City program started back in 2017. That's been a great community program. And I think even though there was, some people that weren't thrilled with that program, the community really likes it, at least from my feedback. And with our Arbor Day program and our new development, our Tree City USA designation, we're really doing a lot with trees in the city. Superhero Carnival has been a great event. Music on Main, it's the same event. We call it Party in the Park. Last year it was Music on Main. Really, no matter what venue we have that in, it's been positive. And so it's just a matter of where we take it from there. Corn Festival, we've done a lot to reorganize Corn Festival and make improve our volunteer experiences, but also make it so that we didn't necessarily need more volunteers than was absolutely necessary. And I think we've done a great job reorganizing it. We just started a fall pumpkin event. Last year, we gave away every pumpkin within an hour. So, it's not a lot. These events that we put on, we do on a very small budget. And when you look at the amount of events that we do, what we do for the community, it really rivals what you might see in an entire park and recs program at other cities. And we do that as just part of everything else that we do. And again, the pumpkin walk is a very low cost event, give back to the community, and people enjoy it. Our Christmas event, which is, just a wonderful evening event in the park. So I believe we're doing that. Here's some pictures of those events. We've got Easter coming up. We're actually ordering stuff for it today. But you can see we have a great turnout for all of these events, and the feedback from the community, I think, has been really positive. I think 99% positive feedback from the community on these events. Corn. And you can just see the crowds of people that gather for the events in one venue or the other. They're very good. Besides those kind of community-wide events, we have other events that we do. We do a spring cleanup, we do a free composting, we do free seeds to the residents. So they can go home and plant, make their own gardens, and that's really popular. I think most of our seeds are gone already, right? There's very few left. They don't last very long. Our business grand opening, we've done a number of grand openings for new businesses that have opened here in the city. I really enjoy doing those. Our National Night Out program, our outreach to our Spanish-speaking community, we've really concentrated a lot of effort on that. We have staff that are Spanish-speaking as well, and we're really concentrating on dual language publications and things like that. And I see more and more people come in to the city that are Spanish speaking because there's somebody there that they're able to communicate in their native language. And so it's good to see. Years ago, we knew we had a Spanish speaking population, but they would rarely come to City Hall, but we're seeing a reversal of that. So one of the things the council asked me to do is really concentrate on communication and outreach to the community and trying to make that a positive experience a few years ago. So that's one of the things we've really put a lot of emphasis on. And I just wanted to play this because I really think what we've done with our videos and how we're able to cross over community events to city needs or infrastructure problems or just things that are happening in the community that we want to make the community aware of. It's that connection through these fun interactions in our social media channels and online that allow us that channel of communication where people aren't immediately falling asleep. So I think if I press the arrow key, this will start, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, it's muted. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Am I doing something?
Earlier this week, we found the bridge on crosswalk.
Can you hear that? Okay.
First, Pseudo here in the CRSMS newsroom with continued coverage on the bridge's community service hours. Earlier this week, we found the bridge on crosswalk duty. We've been putting all the bridge effort into the endeavor.
Well, you really don't need language to see the cause and or voice to see the cause and effect of
In addition to crosswalk duty, the bridge was assigned to assist with parks maintenance by mowing the grass, though he did take some artistic liberties. He even made an appearance at Celebrity's holiday parade last weekend. It appears his heart may no longer be a full 2 sizes too small. With a few hours of community service to go, we expect to see him this weekend at Christmas in the park. Join us at Porterville Park Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. to see how things go.
So that was do we need to turn this down just a little bit? All right, there we go. So that was a continuation of a series of videos we've been doing the last few years, and we've been mixing that with educational videos on the wastewater project, on bike helmet safety projects, different things like that. And as we have time, we complete more and more of those. And so we gave this presentation for a group of funding agencies that fund infrastructure at our one stop, and they were like, you have to come to the State Infrastructure Summit and show other cities what you guys are doing. This is really unique and kind of a model. And so we did that. We also presented at the League of Oregon Cities, just to give other cities ideas on how to increase. It's really about increasing your traffic to your communication channels and then sending out that information. And people love to watch these kinds of videos. They're fun, they're funny. It increases the number of your viewership. And then you try to hit them with some information about some problem statement or things that the community is facing. And so I'm pretty proud of the program we got going on. Okay, I did something wrong. Stop. I broke it.
Oh,
There we go. There we go. So just to talk about what some of those numbers are, you could see here, when you're having 200 to 500% increases in the people that you're reaching through your social media outlets. That's really good. Now, remember, last year we told you there was 1,000% increase. And so this is on top of that. And so we are reaching a broader demographics. We are doing some paid I think that's paid advertisement where we'll push out information to certain demographics. But all of that I think is a good return on investment. Goal 3 is creating an environment to attract, retain, and grow businesses. We've been doing that through even through some of our code improvements, where now new businesses that move in or businesses that change and come in for a change in use application are now having to do some capital investment. That is actually driving greater capital investment from other businesses, that even the ones that have been here for a long time. But there's just some of our renewals. We've been very supportive to local businesses. Our community events, a lot of those are geared towards promoting businesses. Today, we just put a blast out with some free passes to the Croc Center that said, tell us a story about a positive interaction with a local business or with City Hall. Those are all things that support that goal. But really, what is it that businesses need? They need to be able to understand what the requirements are that they have to do in fairly clean language in order to be able to open their business at City Hall. And that's one of the big changes that we made a few years ago. Now, not everybody likes that because, people don't necessarily want to make capital investments all the time. They would like to just, open without any capital investment. But I think that's counterproductive for businesses that are existing. So we've done all of that with those. Just some of those examples. You've seen these before, but I'm just going to throw a few of them in here. That's what the Stop and Save looked like prior to their redevelopment. And that's what they look like today. It's just a drastic improvement in that entire area. There's pedestrian sidewalks and, there's beautification gardens and street trees. It just looks way nicer. That was the old animal clinic. It's still now part animal clinic, part State Farm. And that's what it looks like today. Those make huge impacts on the visibility of Main Street. This was the project that we did this last year, upgrading the front of our community center, as you can see before and after. This is actually a building right across the street that was just approved for redevelopment. And so we wanted to show you the rendition of what that's going to look like. And so again, that'll make a huge positive impact on Main Street. Interchange development. These are conceptual plans. This is in land use right now, but the developers have allowed us to share these conceptual drawings. The top is a hotel that they hope to bring in. The bottom rendition is some retail space, so they'd have retail stores and shops if the project continues on to construction. A council goal 4, ensure a safe and prepared environment for businesses. We do a lot of emergency preparedness articles in the newsletter. Sometimes we'll do some blasts out on one of our communication platforms. Even when we had the snow event, the weather event here a few years ago, we even had postings on the electronic sign, just telling people to be cautious, that there were unsafe driving conditions. Public safety, the elementary school bike rodeo. The police department's done a lot of safety presentations at the school. We also do like the school. They've been having a school career day, and we've been doing stuff there with high schoolers. We have worked on building up our new police officers after we've had a number of vacancies, and we've done I think, a record sprint to get good qualified officers in and through the academy. I think we really were able to fill that need and that gap there for a while. So lots of those. When we talk about calls for service, one of the things I wanted to mention is you see that our calls for service have increased. One of the things that we've done as part of kind of our reorganization plan, as council knows, we're lowering those calls to assist other agencies to really be health safety calls. So, things like domestic violences or where you need multiple officers on scene or some type of a call that would put either the public or the officer in some sort of safety risk. And so we've lowered those, but we've really concentrated on proactive policing in the community and getting the officers kind of out to be more active. And if you look at our number of calls from previous years to this year, you see about a 40% increase. And that's not because we've seen a 40% increase in crime or something like that. A lot of those increases is just the proactiveness of the officers. We're doing a lot more citizen contacts, things like that. But we did want to highlight, we did have a number of officers graduate the academy. Our sergeant completed his leadership academy. There was an award, a life-saving award to Officer Wright. So, we've done a great job getting these guys out on the road, and they're doing a fantastic job out there. So, and I'll just touch a little bit on communication. There used to be this cultural divide with the police department, and Chief Flowers and I have really worked on breaking that down and really trying to be kind of one team group providing all the services. And I actually think morale's a lot higher citywide, but especially in the police department. Goal 5, provide services that are responsive and demonstrate good stewardships. Well, I think if the number of grants that we've been able to get the last 2 years doesn't speak volumes for how hard we're trying to do that, I'm not really sure anything else we could say would, but we do want to also just talk about things like our utility rate increases. If you look at the rate of inflation statewide in 22 and 23, it was 12.5% and 14.5% rate of inflation. And in 22, we only raised our water and sewer rates 3%, even though we had a 12.5% of inflation. And we only raised our water 5% and our sewer 8%. Now, those aren't compounded. It's not together. It's each one has a separate increase. So we had a 14.5% inflation rate, but the highest we raised anything was 8%, and that was sewer. So the police department, they responded to almost 2,600 calls. It's about 215 calls a month. So typically it's like 100, 112. So you can see a really increased the last couple of years there. And then we address, just hundreds of citizens interactions at City Hall at the counter. And that might be related to development from a developer. It may be a complaint about, a neighbor, or it just may be somebody wanting to, do something on their property, and they just want to know how to do that, a shed or a fence or something like that. But we get a lot of interactions at City Hall, and we're not including like utility payments. So I wanted to give you guys some numbers this year. Some of these numbers are a little at odd to me. We had the 20 census. And I'm still trying to figure out the 20 census because we went from a high poverty rate to a low poverty rate, or a much lower poverty rate. And last year, if you had looked at our poverty rate in the city, it would have been like 17.5% or something like that. And right now it's 9.5. And then if you look at medium household incomes, our medium household income is 85,000. And if you compare that to like Staten, 72,000, Turner's a little bit higher. But Marion County 71, and in Oregon, the average is 75. So when you look at those numbers, Aumsville looks like it's very elevated. But here's the unusual part, 26% of our households are on food stamps. So what would that suggest? It either suggests some of those numbers are a little skewed, or that $85,000 average means we have a lot of people making much more than 85,000 and that lower income rate. So you're getting a much greater divide in incomes in the city, which all of those things could be true. But I wanted you to have some of those numbers, but look at the poverty rate in Staten, Aumsville, Marion County. If you look at that, we're doing really good as a community. So I just wanted you to have some of those numbers in case you wanted to utilize those. And I think these are all from the census. So we didn't just make them up. Projects in progress. So our public workshop, our urban growth boundary expansion for our new park. The public workshop has done better than that. That was an old picture prepared, but we do have some new ones. And we did do a little time-lapse video, so I'm going to see if this will play. Now, this isn't 100% complete because our camera did fail at one point for several days. But I wanted you to see what a project is like as it goes over time. What this video is just a snap. It takes a picture every so often. And then we just take all the pictures together. I wish our project actually went that quickly, I'll tell you. It doesn't. Yeah. Now, we actually assembled this a while back, but as you guys know, we had to postpone this a few weeks. So they've gotten quite a little bit more done. I think they started to get the outside prepped for the parking lot and the asphalt. They've got the walls and the offices framed in on the inside. And if you ask Public Works about it, they'd probably say that they love it, but maybe they needed twice that size. You just never have enough storage. It doesn't matter. So this is our water storage tank. I believe council knows that we awarded that to the contractor, and I think they're going to mobilize in March, I believe. And then we'll see that project going vertical. And while all that's going on, we're working on 100% design on our wastewater project. This was a tour that we did down in Jefferson. And I think some of the council that didn't get to go still want to go. We're still open to taking you down there because it's definitely worth seeing in person. Just talk about some of our accomplishments. Honestly, what the city has accomplished in just the last 6 years is really amazing. I'm not going to read all of these things, but there's a lot of milestone projects in there, like acquiring the 23 acres for our new park. I think we acquired about closer to 28 acres total in the last 6 years. Some of that was donated, some of it we purchased. street improvements that we've done, some of these building projects, definitely these infrastructure improvements that we've done. Keep in mind, back in 2017, we were trying to apply for a $36,000 grant just so we could have computers upgraded here in the city and or police cars. We were able to purchase 2 new police cars ourselves. So we're really doing well just from a standpoint of planning and then implementing those plans. But a lot of milestone projects that I'm pretty proud of anyway. And in the next couple of years, we'll have some really big ones to add to that list. Any questions, council? So I think what you see is, and one of the reasons I really like to do the state of the city presentation is, you know, we go through ebbs and flows of good times and bad times and good interactions and bad interactions. But what we see when we do these is a very consistent application of goals and policies set by the council intended to improve the city overall and irrespective of, you know, different people that might have a complaint about parking or things like that. Now, we address those complaints and try to mitigate them the best we can. I was working with somebody the other day about it. And we have to do those things because we want people to enjoy living on their lot in their city to the best of their ability. But, you know, we're still moving forward with these goals and implementing these goals as council directs.
On that short session request, do we have to go down and speak on it or anything?
I don't know. I don't know if there'll be time or if they'll actually have some stuff, but we'll connect you with our representatives once they indicate that there's going to be a hearing. As I understand it, it's a 35-day session, and it seems like there was a lot of pre-work done by the representatives. So I'm just hopeful that in some of those early drafts, our project makes it in there. We have 2 requests at the legislative session. One is for the $4 million sewer project. The other one is a $3 million potable water project because we still have to drill more wells. The yields that we're getting are just not enough to adequately serve the city. And so those are things that we're just going to have to do, and we're going to have to figure out how to do it. So I would love it if both of those requests were filled, but if we just get one of them, you know, it would just be a great achievement considering it's a very short session. The good thing about this short session is it's really a funding. They've got some policy bills out there, but really a lot of it is based on infrastructure funding or implementing affordable housing policies, things like that. So there's going to be a mix of, you know, good and bad things that come out of this legislative session, because that's just what happens. We've got our staff is trying to track some of those bills. We've never done that before. We've always waited until they were towards the end of committees to track them, but we're trying to preemptively track them. We're still implementing the changes from the last 2 legislative sessions in a lot of our city ordinances. You're going to have a development code amendment before you, and there's just lots of different things, but there was some development and there's more coming in this legislative session.
Yeah, the short session is like a sprint, and then like the long is like a marathon.
Yeah.
So things happen really quick in 35 days.
Yeah, and it would be my guess that there's not going to be a lot of negotiation towards the end of some of these capital requests, that some of that stuff's been somewhat pre-vetted. I don't know that ours has been, but I'm guessing that some of that's been pre-vetted because it's a 35-day session.
Yeah.
That's not, and we're halfway through it. So I think when did they? 2nd February, maybe? They started at the beginning of February.
They had their pre-meetings on the 3rd and 4th, and then the actual first day, I think, was on the 5th or 6th.
Yeah. we'll keep you updated, but obviously, you know, you guys are in close contact with our representatives. I encourage you to keep checking in with them and making sure they know we're out there.
I just want to say, like, looking at those numbers on those grants that we've gotten, that's a lot of work in the last few years. And it wasn't just one person alone, and it wasn't just like one community leader or one office staff. That looking back in 23 and comparing it to the rest, it was all of us. It was the community. And I was sitting here just whispering to Della, like, kind of brings tears to my eyes, because I think we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And the quality of work that we're putting out shows in the effort that we're putting in.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of everybody.
Yeah, and when you see the numbers listed, that really tells the story. Even though we had worked on some of those grants back in 21 and
Mhm.
22, you know, we had to list them somewhere, so we listed them when the contracts were basically signed. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a success story that we have to tell. And we haven't lowered service. You know, we've taken on all of this work and we're still doing all the things that the city's always done. We're still doing code enforcement. We're still working with folks at the counter. We're still dealing with utility customers. So we're still dealing with developers and retail stuff. So we're doing all the stuff that you do at a city. And what happens is my team ends up taking the burden of a lot of that administrative work, because we have to spread it out in order to be able to manage it. But we are doing it, and we're doing it successfully.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Thank
The
you.
great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, where are we at? Moving on. We talked about the police department report and public works report. Moving on to number 8, mayor and councilor reports. Does anyone have anything to report?
We have SCAT's meeting coming up on February 27th that I'll be making a presentation at. So just pray that it's received well and that Angie and I have a nice visit instead of arguing with people. So
Yes,
we're presenting why City of Salem wanting a weighted vote really costs small cities, not just us, but also Turner. And we want to make sure that they understand what they're voting for. So pray that they will listen. Because we need it.
I'll be there in support as well. I'm actually taking the day off to be there. We have a couple things coming up. We have the COG dinner on the 28th. And then I think a few of us have registered for the spring conference. I will be there in support. I said if any of the counselors went, I would be there as well. I've also been to the school a couple times and talked about the If I Were Mayor contest. I've been invited back to present exactly what city council does to 4th graders. So if you guys can give me ideas on how to explain that to 4th graders, I'd really appreciate it. And then think later this week, we're going to do an interview, a collective interview with a couple of the other mayors on a radio station about the contest, on how we're promoting it together. Staten, Sublimity, Turner, Aumsville. So I know Sublimity and Staten have promoted it together. It's the first time all 4 of us are doing it. It's been interesting. Those are the reports I have. I don't know if anyone else has anything.
Question about meetings.
Mhm.
In our mail, we received 4 from South Marion County community meetings that are going to be local, pretty much. I'm just wondering, are these things that we should participate in? And
The council is welcome to participate in any community meetings that you feel are relevant.
I just didn't know what they are, so if it would be relevant or
Is,
not.
is that with
Hopefully.
the Marion County Commissioners that you have, that you're asking?
No, I can.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
So that's where we can go and meet with the commissioners. Usually there's 1, 2, or 3 of them, depending on their schedules. And we can talk to them about our needs and our wants and what we appreciate from them. And it never hurts. Angie and I try to both go, or at least one of us, we trade off and on. But anybody's welcome to come.
I used to attend these, I no longer have the bandwidth, like, I've tried to ask for the mornings off and rearrange my schedules, but something always happens. These are great. They used to be only in one location, and they've kind of expanded and they move them around now, which I think better serves Marion County. I would definitely encourage you guys, if you have the bandwidth, to attend. You get to hear what's going on from the county, other leadership in the community, what they're dealing with in their communities. And you can also talk about what we're doing here.
Mhm. Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, I think Marion County actually does notice those meetings as all the cities. I think they do a notice for all the cities, but we'll double check on that. Is if you want to go to one of those meetings, just give staff a heads up. So if we know that a majority of council's going, we'll just do a notice. So that if we have more than a quorum there. But you're welcome to go, just give us a heads up, but we'd love to have you. I do agree with the mayor. I think that there's a lot of information that you get at those meetings that might be relevant to the council. I was attending them pretty regularly pre-COVID and then post-COVID, just with everything else we've been doing, and they've been a little bit more sporadic. I haven't attended them, so having somebody there would be a great resource. Because there is stuff that pops up at them that.
And if you guys want to go like the first time, I remember the first meeting I went to as a counselor, Ron went with me. I could always ask for the morning off. I think to be able to do that, I'll just have to schedule time off. I'm pretty sure we could work something out to offer support and be there with you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go. If you let me know that you're going to go to one and you'd like me to come with you for the first one or something, I'll put it on my schedule.
It wasn't clear to me that this was the county commissioners. Reading between the lines on these things that we keep getting in our mail, so that's why I was curious. But I thought I might go to the one in March, so.
There's the county commissioner meetings. We have town hall notices from our representatives, both Senate and House District and federal. Any of us and all of you guys are encouraged to attend. I just got something from family building blocks, those types of things. By all means, that's less that I have to do.
Well, they sent an RSVP email out for that, but it didn't let you say which one.
Okay.
They came out with these dates, so.
Yeah, just contact Kirsty and she'll get you all set up. We'll navigate that for you.
Moving on to good of the order. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring up for good of the order?
I can let you know, last week at the food pantry, we had 62 families representing 174 individuals. Grown from 55 and families to that.
That's awesome. Correspondence. There is no correspondence in the packet. And executive session, we have no executive session tonight. So that means we've come to an end to the meeting at 8:27 p.m.